Ruth. How are you today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. How have things been going?
Pretty good.
Good. Well,
Pretty good for the most part.
for the most part.
Yeah, things aren't perfect. That's why I come to see you. If they were great, I wouldn't be here. But things are pretty good for the most part.
Okay. How are things improving?
Well, I walk more, and I feel a little bit. I guess I feel fresh and rejuvenated because I've been walking on a regular basis. Not as much as I would like to. Past week, I think I walked maybe 3 times. 10 minutes out and 10 minutes back, and I felt pretty good afterwards. I felt like I accomplished something.
Wow. So what you're saying, what I hear you saying is that you changed the behavior a little bit and you feel better.
Yes.
That's really good. It's sort of like, this is our 4th time meeting, so that's sort of where I was kind of going to go today, well, we'll go there together. But I was sort of going to ask you a couple of questions, and sort of see where we are at session 4, and we'll go from there. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, what do you want? What do you want to do, like in a year? Where do you see yourself in a year?
I want to be working in the substitute teacher's position and transition into teaching. I'm not quite sure what grade I would like to teach. Maybe the younger kids. I think I would feel a little more comfortable around the younger kids, but I like to be past my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I like to lose some weight, so I can buy new wardrobe. So when I start teaching, I'll feel comfortable with the way I look.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly the weight, my job, and just overall feeling better about myself.
Okay. All right. That's basically kind of the same stuff we've been working on, is getting to the place where you can do what you want to do and feel comfortable about it. So what are you doing different now that you started therapy?
I said that the walking, breathing more when I feel the negative feelings that come about, just trying to take a deep breath and remove myself from the situation and ask myself, why am I feeling this way? And I do write down the notes that you asked me to write down. Like after I have a bad nightmare, a bad dream, I try to wake up and remember what the dream was about, but taking more notes.
Okay. How's the taking notes or journaling, whatever? How's that going? Are you any revelations out of that?
Not any what you'd call revelations. It's just being aware, I guess. When I do, I guess, calm down and write the notes down, it makes me aware of what led up to me having a panic attack, or like if I'm afraid or I have feelings of losing my husband or my kids. After those feelings pass, and if I think about it, I try to write down what led up to me feeling that way before I would have those feelings. Sometimes I forget, because I'm more focused on how I feel as opposed to focusing on doing what you asked me to do to help myself get better. So,
Well, I certainly didn't mean to confuse you.
right.
I know it's different behavior, and it's tough. But one thing I'm very pleased that you are going home and doing the things that I'm asking you to do. That's gonna you know, as we change our behaviors, you know, the hope is that our beliefs will change. There's there's sometimes, you know, I kind of want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to do an exercise. We've talked about, you know, we've talked about your binge eating, talked about your husband's thoughts, and you just mentioned what you were talking about losing your husband or losing your kids, having this repetitive dream about, you know, tragedy with your family. And you talked about wanting to teach, but I don't know, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that we made it to the place where you're actually ready to teach. It's still like a want, but you still may have some fears in
No,
that area.
I'm working on my teacher's degree, right? My teacher certification right now. I've already graduated. I'm working on the certification, and I have a substitute job that's been offered to me. I just haven't accepted it. I haven't stepped out, you know.
And when I asked you why you hadn't accepted it, you said you had some fears about, you know, getting out, you know, leaving the house, getting started doing that, and what people may think, and, you know, are you getting more confident in that aspect?
I think a little because of the walking. I'm afraid to weigh myself because I don't want to know what I actually weigh. But I do feel like I may have lost maybe a pound or two because I feel lighter and just like I said earlier, a little more refreshed and rejuvenated since I started the walking. It's not much, but the little that I do walk, it makes me feel better.
Baby steps, you know, baby steps is steps. It's moving forward. You know, some things you may notice, maybe some leaps and bounds, but for the most part, it takes a one step at a time process to get to where you're going. But from where we started to where you are, you know, you're moving forward. You're doing things now at home that you weren't doing, and you told me you're feeling better, so that's good. I've been thinking a little bit about some of the stuff you told me, and do you know what a core belief is?
Like what your beliefs are rooted and grounded in.
Yeah, something deep inside,
Right.
and it usually directs your behavior. It usually directs your feelings, and then it directs your behavior. So you have a feeling, you know, deep down inside here. You get a feel. You know you get a belief. You have a deep down a belief, and then you get a feeling from it, and based out of that, you know, from that feeling is what you operate on. It's like your rules of life, you know. This is how I operate because this is what I believe. And I'd like to explore, if you will, it's a little exercise kind of called laddering, and we'd like to explore something, an event that happens, if you will, and then we kind of, you know, we kind of go from there and figure out what's at the root of that particular thing, and see if maybe we can work on, you know, if it's a healthy one, we keep it. If it is not something that is suitable to us, where, you know, we're sustaining this belief about something, but it's not getting us where we want to go. We're saying we want to go here, but because we believe this, and where we have fear about stuff, then we won't go there. And so I just, after we've talked, and, you know, you're doing the things that that we discussed, which is amazing. I'd just like to maybe, you know, maybe like get in touch with some of your deeper feelings. Are you willing to do that?
Sure.
Okay, great. So basically, some of the stuff that we've talked about in here, I'm gonna leave it all up to you to pick which one you'd like to, or pick an event, pick something that, you know, that's really, I'll ask you, since it's the first time we've done it, maybe not to go something so deep. You know, maybe something that's not as very close to your emotional, just something that bugs you that you'd like to change, but you don't know, you know, if you'll be able to change it, or something that you think about upsets you really bad?
Well, my weight and my fear of how people look at me because I am overweight.
Okay.
And like I mentioned to you, I think in an earlier session, that I've been dealing with this um, since I was a child. And
I was
always
real-
felt,
Sorry.
that's okay. I always felt less than or condemned by my parents because of my weight.
So, what if you didn't lose weight? What if you didn't lose weight?
I don't think I would really want to teach. I mean, I want to, I feel that that's my calling. I have a passion. I want to teach kids, but if I'm not comfortable with myself, I don't think I could be comfortable in front of a classroom sharing with kids, especially older kids, because they can be cruel sometimes. But I don't think I would feel comfortable enough to actually do what I feel I've been called to do.
Well, let's talk about comfortable. Like, what do you feel if you're in front of a class, older kids, like maybe high school, and you haven't lost the weight that you want to lose, but you're doing the things that you know, to get there, but you've got some courage and you go and you're standing in front of these kids and you're teaching. Take yourself there for just a minute.
You know, first I would feel embarrassed, and I would think that the kids would think less of me, and how could I stand up and instruct or tell them anything or encourage them to do anything when I can't even lose weight, you know, and that they would think that I was fat and ugly and not really qualified to be the teacher if I'm, you know, overweight and I can't even control my eating. If the kids need discipline and I try to tell the kids or discourage the kids from talking or encourage the kids to do something positive, I'm always thinking that they'll think, well, how can you tell me anything when you're as fat as you are and you can't even push back from the table?
So the script looks like this. You're overweight, you're teaching, and your automatic thought goes to, they think you're fat, they don't think you have what it takes to teach them, you can't teach them anything because you don't even have self-control of yourself, so why would they listen to you?
Yes.
Well, that's the script you set up for yourself. And let me ask you something: is that realistic to you? Is that realistic of you know, what is the evidence that says that that's what will happen?
There's no evidence right now because I haven't gone through it. It's just a feeling that I've had and the feeling that I will have, I think, if I'm put in that position to stand in front of students and have them look at me and judge me for what I look like.
So I hear you saying that if you don't lose weight, you are not good enough to teach.
I don't feel like I think intellectually, I think I'm capable, but just on the surface, I don't think that I'll be received as somebody that's qualified.
What would make you think that they would receive you as qualified if you're intellectually, which is, intellect is what it takes to teach, right?
Yeah.
So if you're intellectual enough, you have the credentials, you're standing up there because that's how you would get the job. What would make you not qualified to do it?
Again, I feel qualified in what I know and what I have and what I've accomplished as far as school is concerned, and what I'm accomplishing right now with my going through my teacher certification. It's just that once I do have that, I have no reason to not do it other than the way I feel I'll be received. And sometimes not just by the students, but I think other faculty members and principals or deans or whomever may feel that way. Nobody likes fat people in society. I mean, all the models you see on television, they're all skinny and they have on bikinis and they're tanned, and I'm none of those things. And those people are acceptable when they make clothes now. They make them for smaller people. A lot of times I go to the store, I can't find certain clothes to fit me. When I do find those clothes, they don't fit properly. So I never look the way I think I should look. And having the kids, my 4 kids, I mean, that's all added more weight to me. And it's
So let's try
yeah.
and stay on the school thing and the weight thing. So what is the thought? The thought is, that what I'm hearing you say is the thought is I'm not good enough to teach unless I am at a weight that I'm comfortable at.
Right. And I feel I'm good enough to teach. I just feel that I'm not good enough to be seen out in public teaching because of the way I think people will look at me.
And I'm trying to get to a place of where this belief came from, is that a rational belief to believe that if you're standing in front of, you went to college, you have your credentials, you've got your licensure, you've got a job, you're standing up in front of the class and you're teaching, and your fears tell you that what's going to happen is your weight is going to get in the middle of that. And I'm like thinking, is that a belief system that seems to steer with you on that? Is that the same reason that you don't want to leave the house?
Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sometimes it is. It's like none of us would, in our right mind, stand on a stage or in a group setting naked. But when I'm in front of a group, or when I feel I would have to speak to kids, or even when I had to do presentations in school, I felt exposed and naked, like everybody could see every imperfection regarding my body, and that's somewhat embarrassing.
What made you think that they thought that?
And I don't know. I just have the feeling when they look at me, I can see when other women are up front speaking. I see the way men, I see the way other women engage with women that we all consider to be beautiful or shapely. But when they look at me, sometimes it's like they look at me with disdain, like with this ugh look on their face. Like, how could you let yourself get to this point? And sometimes I even feel that way. So if I feel that way about myself, I wouldn't blame anybody else for looking at me that way and feeling the same or thinking the same.
There we go. There you go. So you feel this way about yourself. Your core belief about your weight is you're only good enough to be mom, wife, teacher, student, is if your weight is tied to being the best that you can be wearing any of those hats.
Yes.
Okay. So the only way really, to change that belief, you understand that's not the truth, right?
Depends on what day it is.
I understand that. I do. I understand that. It is an irrational belief. It is a belief that there's no evidence. We've talked about it. You're not telling me that someone stood up and said, Ruth, you're fat, you can't teach, that's that. I'm sorry, there's no way. And, when you were younger, you felt that way, you said, and you say you feel that way now. So for a long time, you have felt this way about your weight, and it seems to be the thing that's holding you back, because your belief is that you go on and do the stuff, but then when it comes to actual leaving the house or going to the sports event or going to teach or substitute teaching or be in a crowd full of people, the fear comes up and you can feel it right here.
Yes.
I know that if I go to this thing, these people are not going to like me. I'm not going to fit in right because I'm overweight.
Yes.
Yes. So let's just say that we replaced that thought that you have about if I'm fat, I'm not good enough. This thought that you say about yourself. What could we replace that thought with?
That I am good enough regardless of how I feel about myself. And sometimes I feel good, but for the most part, I don't.
Well, I'd like to go with something a little more positive than that because we started out, you like to, and then but. Without a but, what about feelings are not facts and I am good enough? Say it. Feelings are not facts and I am good enough.
And I am good enough.
Say it again. Feelings are not facts and I am good enough.
And I am good enough.
I am good enough to teach.
I'm good enough to teach.
I'm good enough to be mom.
I'm good enough to be mom.
I'm good enough to be a student.
I'm good enough to be a student.
And I'm good enough to be a wife.
And I'm good enough to be a wife.
How did it feel to say that?
Felt good.
Words have a lot of meaning, Ruth, and they either destroy you or empower you. And it can be turned around. If you think about it, how would you tell me how, just by what you just felt, if every time you felt, I'm not good enough, I'm fat, I can't do this, they're all going to be looking at me, it's going to be like I'm up there naked and fat and the whole world's going to not like me or accept me or think that I can't, or whatever you've told yourself based on it's wrapped around your weight. You've told yourself a lot of things based on what your weight is, about every hat that you wear in life that's important to you. What if every time you had that thought, no matter what it was based on, right now we're talking about the fact that you can go teach, no matter what it was, the one thing that you would do is say that I am good enough to do whatever it is you're doing at the time, and and you tell yourself that. What do you think over a period of time how would that look?
I mean, it sounds good. It would feel better if I wasn't as heavy as I am. It would feel better if I had you there in my ear telling me that I am good enough. And I'll have good days and I'll have bad days. And this, I feel good about saying that, but until I actually lose some of the weight and I can actually see it, my clothes sizes begin to shrink, then I think I would feel a lot better about myself and really believe that once I see a difference in the way that I look.
Right. And what we're talking about here is feelings, and I think that's guiding you into doing a lot of the things that sabotage what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You tend to say stuff, you have negative self-talk. You're saying these things to yourself. You feel bad, and then you binge eat, or you or you make yourself feel like you can't, you talk yourself into not leaving the house because you fill yourself up with fear concerning your weight and what other people will think before you even get to the event. Right. And that is pretty irrational. That's your thoughts about what other people think. Do you see that?
Yes.
And we do carry ourselves about the way that we think. I mean, I get what you're saying. I do. I understand what you're saying. But you would probably be more motivated to continue walking because you say that's making you feel better. And as you're walking and saying better things to yourself, I am good enough to go teach this class. I don't know what these people are thinking. I'm not a mind reader. I am good enough to go do this. I'm going to go do this and see how it is. And if you would, I encourage you to go a couple of times to the substitute. When you substitute, can't you still say no if you can't do it that day.
Yes. Yes.
So, could you be in charge of how many days? Like I can
Yes.
substitute, but I can only do it 2 days a week or
Yes.
something like that.
I can do that.
So if you would go and take it slow and agree to do some of this positive self-talk, and then we're writing about it, we're going to be writing about it, as you are leaving the house, whatever feeling comes up, that core belief is right here. It's going to well up. It's going to be in your head. It's going to, it's going to play the tape over and over again until you have a feeling about it. The thought is going to cause a feeling. And that's either going to stop you from leaving the house, or you say, no, I'm not going to have that. I am good enough to go teach this class. And you start writing about it. You'll have some data to back up whether or not you want to keep this belief that you cannot do anything or you're not good enough if you're overweight. And it may sound scary, but it may change. The hope is that it changes the way that you feel about leaving the house or about the hats that you wear. And as you see that, this is maybe not happening the way you have it all planned out in your head, and you write about it, you'll see, you'll have some data to look at and go, maybe I can do this. And then that'll build some courage and some strength. You'll be doing push-ups for your courage, and you'll get your courage really strong, and you'll say, well, I did this. So is it realistic what you're thinking? I'm not asking if it's real to you. I'm asking, is it realistic without evidence to believe a thought?
No.
So would it be fair to ask you to maybe consider what we were talking about?
Which is
The teaching, just a couple of days a week,
Yeah.
like not running out and, just jumping into it. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. We can start off slow, get some data, start addressing the things that we're in here for, the dreams and the relationships you have with your family. But I want you to have some evidence on the other side. Right now, all your evidence is over here. I want you to have some evidence on the other side that to shake some of your beliefs about you. You are good enough, exactly the way you are, but you have to feel that. Yeah. So, do you think that maybe we can do that?
Yes, I'll contact the school and tell them that I'll be available for maybe 2 days out of the week if needed.
Okay, and write about it when it bothers you, or when you're in it and it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. You're going to feel all of that core belief down there trying to tell you some stuff, and you just have to, you are good enough to be exactly where you are. You worked very hard to get there. You are good enough. And you empower yourself. You tell yourself those things. Do you understand that a lot of what you believe, the core beliefs that you have of yourself about you're not good enough if, or you're not right if, and it always has to be tied to something you're not already. So do you understand that over a period of time you've told yourself this and now you believe it?
Yeah.
That's why it's core belief. Because so if you believe that, then you have to believe if you tell yourself something else, that we can start maybe changing the way you talk to yourself. That's what today was about, kind of change your step. And then thought stopping. It's like a reconstruction of your thought, right? Which is kind of what we talked about today. We just put it in a model, but while you're doing that, we can't change everything at one time, but when you have this voice or this, thought process starts going on, if it starts flooding you, or if you start feeling this stuff that you feel that make you not want to leave the house, start, I'm not going to think that. Or, my favorite is Etch-a-Sketch. Do you know what an Etch-a-Sketch is?
Yes.
You roll it and you do your picture. I go, and I'm not going to think that. I'm not going to allow that negative feeling to be inside of my head and rob me of my joyful life that I have. So, how do you feel about those things?
Okay.
That's not a very...
It's a wait and see. I'll try those things, and if they work, I'll come back with a good report. If not, I'll document and come back and let you know, hey, yeah or nay, yes it did, or no it didn't, and hopefully you'll help me figure it out.
I am going to help you figure it out, because we have to, if you want your mind to change and you want to think differently, you have to put different stuff in there and empty stuff out. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
So that's what thinking positive is. That's what getting up and going to teach anyway, regardless of the way you feel. And once you get some data on the other side, you'll see that things will change once we start talking more positive to Ruth. Then things will improve, and you find your own. You find your own. I may use Etch-a-Sketch, but you find your own. You find what works for you to take a negative out of. I'm not going to let that thought live there until we can process each and every one of them that you feel that has you upset, and we'll work on them. Can't do them all at one time. So to recap what we're doing, we're gonna stop talking ugly to ourselves, and we're gonna replace that one thought that you have about being overweight and not being able to do X, Y, or Z, whatever you attach it to. And we're going to start trying to change that thought process by replacing it with the new thought. That, what is it? I am good enough. Yes, to whatever it is. And you'll be still exercising. You'll be still, you'll be working on trying to let them know you're going to teach. And we're starting. I mean, do you see that you're doing different things and things are going to happen? That's kind of how therapy works. I think we discussed at one time, I don't have a magic wand. I wish I did. I wish I could go, Ruth is better. But we have to do some work, and you're doing a great job. You're doing great. It's a process, and as you start adding some different behaviors, some different feelings will come. It's just how it works, and you'll feel differently. Plus, you're exercising. That's going to make you feel amazing, and as you start exercising, maybe you'll be motivated to add some other stuff in that'll make you healthy. Okay? Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. I will be here.